If your first thought on seeing this video is, Mathas, you look like hell, it's 2020. Hello everybody and welcome to another Judge Mathas episode. A little bit of a different one this time. At the top, I'd like to thank Facebook right away for sending me an Oculus Quest 2. Basically, they reached out and said, hey, we'll send you an Oculus Quest 2 if you make a video. And I said, for real? And they said, uh-huh. And then I said, can I say what I want? And they said, uh-huh, as long as you disclaim it. Hey, just so you know at the top, while they may have sent me a free Oculus Quest 2, I'm gonna give you my full-on thoughts, especially as somebody who has thoroughly enjoyed VR and bought the Dev Kit 2 way back in the day when VR was still very much a novelty, and then bought the Vive when VR kind of hit the mainstream, and now has the Oculus Quest 2. So I'm gonna go through what the Oculus Quest 2 has in the box, what it can do performance-wise, my personal experience with it over the past 3 days of really intense play, and you can take that and do what you will. Ideally, you click the like button and the subscribe button and then go on with your day, but... So first things first, what comes in the Oculus Quest 2 box? Just so you know, the Oculus Quest 2 has two versions of it out right now. It is the Oculus Quest 2 64GB version, and I believe it's the 128, or it could be the 256GB. It's one of those two. Either way, they sent me the most basic version at the 64GB version with none of the extras involved. Inside the box, you of course get your headset. You're gonna get two Oculus Touch controllers. Both of them already have AA batteries fully charged in them. The power adapter, of course, charging cable, and if you have glasses, an extra piece of plastic called the glasses spacer that'll help it be more comfortable on your face for those who actually do wear glasses. And I have pretty much all of it right here. The headset is sitting right here. Of course, the charging cable is not attached to it. It's actually a decent headset, and in a lot of the preview videos it kind of looked cheap and flimsy, but it's actually pretty damn sturdy and a little front heavy if I'm honest. And the two controllers for the Oculus Quest. And I'll have more on these puppies in a bit. Now, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the Oculus Quest 2 and its specs for those who may have an Oculus Quest 1, the Oculus Quest 2 has a Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 compared to the Snapdragon 835 of the first Quest. It has 6GB of RAM instead of the 4 of the first one, and of course the 64GB of storage, or 256 compared to the 64 or 128 of the original Quest. And all of that to say, out of the box, the Oculus Quest 2 can do a lot. Quite a lot. It's also running on a single OLED screen instead of a dual screens, one for each eye, which allows it to have resolutions equal and up to 90 Hertz for certain games that support it, as well as a resolution that equals that of the Valve Index. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I just want you guys to know my personal past with VR. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but just a little bit more detail. I'm not one of those people who has every VR headset in the world. I can't afford that, and the VR companies aren't reaching out to me and hand them to me like candy, but this is just for the VR companies. Get away from everybody else, just move. VR companies, if you're listening to me, I will review your headsets if you send them to me, all right? Not to Dean, to me. I'll just, whatever you want. Just if you need a little bit up on the bat, you know, I'll give you a little spank and tell you what a good job you're doing. Listen, whatever. If you just send me free headsets. When VR was first coming out, the dev kits for Oculus One had two of them. I ended up getting the second one, which was really low resolution dual screens. And eventually I ended up picking up the Vive, which I still occasionally use, but I have to admit, the insane wires that come from the headset, setting up the base stations around my office can be so annoying and troublesome that I just don't really bother anymore, with the exception of Half-Life Alyx, which we'll get to in a little bit when it comes to the Quest. All that to say, I've never really had an out-of-the-box VR headset before, so the Quest 2 was my first one where it was marketed to me kind of like a console. I pop it out of the box, I can turn it on, and right out the gate, I can start playing VR. And I have to admit, that was a magical moment for me. Just being untethered from my PC, being able to wander my room and not get tangled up, and be able to play these VR experiences that go right on the Quest 2, that are built so the Quest 2 can play them, is pretty sweet. I can't really argue with that. So much so that I have been playing this thing nonstop for 3 or 4 days now. Anytime it dies, I plug the thing back in, I wait for it to charge, and then I go play it again, whether it be the Star Wars Vader Immortal games, the Dark Room Escape Room VR, the Hatsune Miku dancing game, table tennis. There's a lot there to love, and it's pretty awesome. My monitor fell asleep. And if you're like me and you have a bunch of PC VR games like Half-Life Alyx that you'd like to play, then the Quest 2 has you covered. You can actually turn this thing into a PC VR headset. On the side, it actually has a USB-C port, and you can get an extension cable right from Oculus, but any USB-C will do. And just like that, it becomes a PC VR headset. No need for base stations. It uses the tracking that's built into the headset, the cameras on all the corners, and of course, the controllers. And there's an app called Virtual Desktop that you get. Now, the Virtual Desktop has a beta version of it right now that is supporting wireless play. And this is what really ended up selling me on the Oculus Quest 2 as my new go-to VR headset. With Virtual Desktop and a little bit of setup, and I really do mean a little bit, it's not that difficult, you can, as long as you have Wi-Fi 5 or 6, wirelessly transmit whatever it is you're playing on your PC to your Oculus Quest 2, and you are now wirelessly playing PC VR games. Now, is it as good as, say, the Vive? No, I will be out front, it isn't. It can't be. It doesn't have base stations tracking my body, and if I have a controller that comes behind me and I lose it for a while, the headset loses control of it and it'll kind of judder into existence the next time it appears on camera. But I was playing Half-Life Alyx a room and a half away with a closed door and a wall through Wi-Fi 5 and noticing very minimal latency. I believe the latency I was getting was anywhere between 19 and 21 ms, which is not that bad and not that perceivable. So much so that this is the way I'm going to be playing my PC VR games going forward. It's just too convenient to play this thing without wires on it and get the almost pretty much full PC experience, and as time goes on, it's only going to get better. I just don't understand why we wouldn't be doing that. Moreover, I'm actually curious why Facebook isn't focused on that. Certainly it allowed the tethering, but it's a third-party app that's allowing the virtual wireless gameplay of the PC do this thing, and it's damn good. I almost wish Facebook would put a little bit of money into that and see them develop it first party, because honestly, this is the future of VR. I truly believe that. Now, when it comes to comfort of wearing the headset, I have to say it's not that bad. It is a little front heavy, as I mentioned before, and after about an hour or two of usage, I noticed constantly I was readjusting, just wanting to get some of the pressure off of my face, but it never felt as bad as some of the other heavier headsets. And there are extensions and little goodies you can buy. But out of the box, without mentioning any of the extra stuff that you can buy, this is a decently comfortable headset. I would say that if this is all you're going to be able to afford, you're going to be just fine with what you get. The battery life is a little bit unfortunate. It only lasts, I've noticed, about 2 hours. The box says 2 to 3, but I'm lucky if I get about 2 hours out of this thing every single time. Now, there is an Elite strap with a battery pack that you can buy from Oculus that creates a bit of a counterbalance in the rear that makes it a much more balanced comfort feel, as well as supposedly doubling the battery life. But while I ordered it, I don't have it here now, and that's not what I'm reviewing anyway. So just be aware, this can get a little uncomfortable after some extended wear, and the battery life does die relatively quickly. Maybe it's a good thing that it's dying on me constantly though, because it means I am using this thing more than I've used any other VR headset. And last but not least is the audio built in. There is a jack for headphones that you can plug in over on the side, but this of course comes in with built-in audio, all in the head strap, which means it's not phenomenal. You can kind of see it here, and there's a ton of audio bleed on both sides. Those who are hanging out in the room can hear the game being played, and you as the player can hear everything happening in the room. If it's something like a party like I did with my sister and my mom when I gave them their first VR experience with this headset, it's not a big deal. In fact, can be kind of fun and useful for some. But for those who are playing by themselves, I highly suggest grabbing headphones. Now, as far as the gaming experience, I have to say I've really loved it. Beyond the just PC virtual desktop experience I mentioned prior, the games that are made for the Quest 2 run pretty damn well. The Vader Immortal trilogy, which I've gotten through 2 of the 3 episodes in, is incredible. It runs rather smoothly, it looks pretty damn good, and the screen door effect on this thing is gone. The resolution per eye is 1832 by 1920, and at that high def resolution, while you can certainly still see pixels, don't get me wrong, that black line screen door effect that you get at lower resolutions that close to your eye is gone. I no longer feel like I'm looking through a door into the virtual world. that's much more immersive and it truly feels like I'm there. The games themselves are incredibly fun, beyond just the PC experience through Virtual Desktop. There's a ton of games made specifically for the Quest 2, and even PC games that have been made and maybe scaled down a little bit in terms of graphical fidelity so that they can run on the Quest 2 without the need of a PC. A prime example of that is The Walking Dead Sinners and Saints. They released a version of the game that runs on the Quest 2 without the need of a PC, and while there's definitely a graphics downgrade, it's not so bad that it takes you out. Sure, there's a little bit of lower resolution in the textures, but beyond that, the game runs just fine and is just as scary and visceral as it is on the PC. But even without that, the Quest 2 has a rather large library. I got to dance with Hitsune Miku in VR. It's kind of a DDR game. The table tennis games that are out there are great, and a personal favorite for mine is The Room VR. Escape room games are always fun, especially if you love just puzzle games in general. But I'm telling you, playing a room escape game in VR is an experience that is just unmatchable. I don't really think I would want to play an escape the room game in any other way if I have that choice. Being able to mess with the puzzles right with your hands, reaching in and pulling the important objects and having the creepy things happening around you as you're solving them, all happening around your shoulder, is awesome. And the ease of use of getting it set up is great. I had my mom and my sister, who had never really messed with VR before, try out the Oculus Quest 2, and while there was a little bit of getting used to it, especially for my mom, they were blown away. Technology is finally here. I remember getting the Dev Kit 2 when I ordered it way so many years ago, and thinking about the times where we would finally be at a point where wireless VR was actually something that could be done. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here. It may not be the top of the line VR, that still handily goes to the Valve Index, but as far as out-of-the-box VR that can become PC VR, this is what I think is going to be in most people's homes. And for me, as much as I'd love to get a Valve Index, this is what I'm going to be using. Now you might be saying,
Mathas, holy crap, you're just talking nothing but positives here. These loads are incredible, only for $300, oh my god, you're crazy, anyone buy this?
well, that's where my real thoughts come in. I truly believe the Quest 2 is an incredible buy, and if this is simply just the second one and we're going to see improvements in the years to come, I cannot wait to see where the Quest ends up landing and where other VR headsets and companies end up going and what Oculus ends up doing in terms of influencing that market. But there's a reason it's only $300, and that's because in order to have a Quest 2, you have to have a Facebook account. There's no getting around it. Now, for someone like me, that's not a big deal. I live a rather public life in general, and my information is not something that, for the most part, I'm worried about. Google has it, Apple has it, everybody has all my info everywhere. But there's no denying that with the headset and the cameras, it's gonna see everything you're doing in your room, what you're playing, how you're doing things, and should you decide to break the rules or Facebook doesn't like the way you're handling your Facebook account or anything, and your Facebook account gets locked, so too does your entire library of games on the Quest 2. They are that linked. If you're gonna be playing with the Quest 2, you have to have a Facebook account. And if you make a fake one and they catch you, the same thing can happen. There is that trade-off there. But in turn, you're getting one of the most modern VR headsets that have ever existed, and one that finally makes me believe in the magic of VR again, in a way that I haven't felt since I got the Dev Kit 2 in my hands. And I can't wait to see what other companies end up doing with VR. Being able to play readily like that, share it with people, and have a truly magical VR experience at the ready at any given time is something I've been clamoring for. And now we have it. My final thoughts on the headset are rather positive, if you can imagine. If you can get over the fact that yes, Facebook is going to end up having your information if you want this thing and you don't care, I don't think there's really any higher recommendation I could give you. If you've been waiting to dive into the VR game, the Quest 2 is the time to jump in. The headset's a little heavy, but it's not nearly as uncomfortable or cumbersome as any of the other PC ones. And while the controllers themselves are a little bit light and a little bit weird to hold, they do not take long to get used to. They're comfortable in your hand before long, and the kind of light nature, almost a little cheap-like nature that they kind of feel, isn't all that bad. Are they Vive controllers? No. I prefer my Vive controllers, honestly, but these are still pretty damn good. And they do their job. For me, I'm getting the Elite strap with the battery, the Comfort Fit Pack, and the carrying case. I finally found a VR headset that I'm going to use almost daily. Beat Saber and all those other games that require fast range of motion seems to have no loss in tracking of the hands, as had been complained about the first Quest. Whatever the first Quest seemed to have gotten wrong, it seems that the Quest 2 truly fixed almost all of it. I cannot wait to go dive back into the Quest 2 and play some games. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta go swipe my lightsaber at Vader and tell him what a punk bitch he is. It's fine, I have it on, don't worry. Oh! I'm sure I don't look embarrassing at all in any of these games, too. I don't know why I'm leaning backward. Girl, what can I say? Whoa!